Hello there. Welcome to the entertainment headquarters where we talk all things entertainment, movies, television, reviews, trailer reactions, and more. Welcome. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to another Let's Talk Live. So, I did one of these a couple of weeks back where I just decided, you know what, fuck it. Let's do a random, live and do a Q&A and see, who's about, who wants to have a chat. Let's talk, about movies, television, whatever. And obviously, I also opened it up for, kind of a bit of a Q&A to get to know me, get to know me about the channel, what I'm about, what my interests are, Channel's been up for nearly a year now, and, it's been a fun experience so far. So any questions you want to ask me or any of the guests, go ahead and ask. But speaking of me guests on this Let's Talk Live, I have my co-host on this channel, and I've been a co-host on his channel. A good friend of mine, Mr. DJ Anubis of the Metal Tavern Radio.
What's up?
Yeah, and then down below we have who we have called the Professor. A very intelligent young man that has a great knowledge for movies and all of that jazz, and is a very creative person. He does a lot of creative writing, stop motion filming. Mr. Dan Miller of Dan Filming.
Hello and good evening.
Yes, and finally, and finally from Anthony Jordan's Movie and Gaming, getting ready to launch Montoberfest, I believe, or on his channel, Mr. Anthony Jordan. So,
Hello.
here we are, and I've selected the subject for this Let's Talk Live for best horror moments in horror movies, film scenes or deaths or things that just freaked us out, put the chills up with from the horror movie genre. So who would like to get started and talk about something that, really give them the heebie-jeebies, the creeps, or a death that you think's iconic?
Well, what about in the original Dawn of the Dead, when Ken Fortier character, he's sitting there waiting for his buddy Roger to die in turn, and he's drinking, preparing himself, and the scene's just masterfully done. You hear the people on the TV in the background, and then he rises up, and you get that great zombie makeup and almost that last moment of recognition in his eyes before he truly becomes a zombie and Peter has to take him out. It's creepy, it's emotional, it's shot well, and it just builds up the suspense to the moment.
My fault.
I think Anubis is preparing with some clips, everybody.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to autoplay. I forgot to tell you to stop that.
Oh yeah, I forgot autoplay. Yes, so yeah, I remember that death, and I know when I did. I think me and Anubis did with top 10 movie deaths, or a while ago, or was it just me who did my top 10 movie death? And I did include a death from one of the movie, and it's when that prick, Captain Asshole, as I like to call it,
Rhodes.
Yes, Captain Rhodes, where he thinks he's getting away, gets shot, and then he opens the door and he literally gets ripped apart by zombies. And that scene alone, not only was it grotesque, but it was very satisfying. It's probably one of the first times in the world of horror and film where there was a villain that you hate, but you really want to see get a nasty comeuppance.
But you also have to begrudgingly respect him because he's defiant right to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that was
high class asshole. He's just going out the way he came in.
That scene was brutal for the actor because they took a weekend break and those were real pig guts and stuff. In the refrigerator they were in accidentally got unplugged. So they had to do it in one take, and he's like, I did my take, and once the director yelled cut, he said he hurled.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
There's obviously using America as well as us here in the UK, we have a game show / reality show called Big Brother.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it was huge in the 90s here in the UK. It was actually so popular that some horror director and writer created a British horror mini-series around the game show, reality show Big Brother called Dead Set, which is a phenomenal series. And there's one particular scene, you've got one of the executive producers who's played by a fantastic actor who basically, he's so defined. He's like, I'm just getting rich off these pricks who want to be famous. And the whole concept of Dead Set is during the filming of that year's Big Brother show, it's the live first episode where the housemates go into the house. And obviously on British television, they do that live. And so basically it felt like a real life thing where they set it up. They had the actual host from the television show, Davina McCall, involved in this mini-series where it was a very setup where she's doing the live introductions to the new housemates, letting them in the house. At the same time, in the background, you're showing you like clips of these people just getting attacked randomly by these different, obviously zombies. And next thing you know, the zombies invade the actual the studio where the show's getting filmed. They invade the audience, and then they invade the studio, and you see them attack Davina McCall, and it was proper done realistically. And so the whole series is where the whole of London is being took over by zombies, and the only survivors are these pricks who are fame hungry, stuck in the Big Brother house. And the only other person who survives is the prick executive producer. And the final episode of the series is like it's definitely inspired by that scene by Captain Rose where he's trying to leave the Big Brother house and he opens the door and there's hundreds of zombies and they start ripping him up, tearing his guts out, and even you see him with his guts hanging out and he's like, "Eat me, you fuckers, eat me." He's like, it's so definitely a tribute to Day of the Dead.
Question: when did the UK Big Brother come out? Because I don't know if it's still airing, but we've at least had the show here too.
Yeah. Big Brother. It was on a channel called Channel 4 all throughout the 90s, and then it stopped in probably the mid 2000s. Then it was away about 3 or 4 years, and they've brought it back. It's been back now for about 2 or 3 years now.
It started in 1999.
Yeah, I knew. But it's a load of shit. I wouldn't watch it. But I love Dead Set. And if you love zombies and you like the British zombie setting, definitely look out for Dead Set UK.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that, Daniel?
I've heard of it and I've seen bits of it on television, but not in full, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, I would. If you get a chance, check it out.
Okay, so clarify, I looked up US Big Brother started in July 2000, so you guys got yours was the original a year ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Anubis, you want to show some clips and want to talk about some of your favorite deaths.
Yeah, I won't show them all at once. We'll kind of just go along, but I chose like 6 scenes that I don't have clips for and 6 scenes that I do. But first scene that I have that isn't on a clip is actually a pretty good reimagining of The Invisible Man. And the one scene that was really kind of cool was the dinner scene. And I forget the actress. She was in Mad Men, but I think Moss is her last name. And she ended up like talking to her sister. And of course, the idea was her ex-boyfriend was abusive and found a way of this technology to create this suit that makes him invisible. And she thought he was dead and gone because he just disappeared. But he ends up coming up and picking up the steak knife and cutting her sister's throat and throwing the knife in her hand. And everyone around's like looking at her like she just killed somebody in front of them in the restaurant. So I thought that was like a really cool scene and kind of cool theme with the movie. I like how that played out. But one scene that I chose in terms of like clips is obviously one of my favorite movies. I have a 1977 Argento Suspiria. And I remember the tagline was always like, if you're not scared by the first 15 minutes of the film, the last 15 are definitely going to scare you, or something to that effect. This clip I have is towards the end of the film when basically Susie Banna is like confronting Helena Marcus, one of the witches who's invisible at the time, and she's able to bring back one of her dead friends from the death, and it's like a zombie type thing. But I remember the friend like who's dead opening the door and just like being horrified at this, and I couldn't even imagine, like I'd be frozen in fear at this scene. So it's only about like 20 seconds for these clips, so I'll just show a little piece of it.
Well, that's fine.
The living dead.
So yeah, you can imagine when I first saw that, I was like horrified. I was like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, like that gave me Evil Dead vibes.
Mm.
The way he used color to accentuate scenes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anthony Perkins used the same technique when he made his directorial debut in Psycho 3. Because he was inspired so much by his movies, he focused his directing style more on lighting rather than traditional Hitchcockian photography.
Mm.
I tell you, the deaths that really screwed my head when I was younger. I was far too young when I seen this. Like, I remember my mum and dad used to, in the winter nights, used to pull out the settee, was living room chair away from the fire. Away from the radiator, so not to burn it or to catch the light. Well, I remember one day they switched the light off in the living room. It must have been 8 or something, and I literally they switched the lights off in the living room. They pulled the settee away from the fire from the radiator, and I snuck downstairs and I hid behind the living room chair so they couldn't see us, thinking I was up in bed. So what film did they put on to watch? None other than Hellraiser. And I always remember the scene when it's the dad, when it's Mike's death, when he's got the dad's skin on, and the Cenobites come, and the hooks go in his body, and they rip him apart. Imagine seeing that as an 8-year-old kid. So yes,
yeah, that whole movie has a lot of scenes that, like, even just the reincarnation of Frank at the beginning, and like coming from the ground, and yeah, that was pretty good.
I'm trying to think another scene that freaked me out, which isn't sci-fi horror, is The Fly. When I seen the Jeff Goldblum. He's seen the Jeff Goldblum scene when he comes out of, and he's like halfway transformed, and just the grotesqueness of his transformation. That really gave me the heebie-jeebies as a kid as well.
Yeah.
So what else have you got for us, DJ Anubis?
The first one would be one I don't have a clip for, but I'm sure pretty much everyone's seen it. If you ever seen Shyamalan's flicks, the movie Signs.
Oh yes.
Joaquin Phoenix is watching the TV, and there's like this birthday party being filmed, and that's when we get our first glimpse at the alien. And like, I just remember, like, it was so well done. Like, it wasn't so blatant. It was still kind of fuzzy, so you can't. It's like your atypical, like, it's like when they try to get UFO on video cam, and it's like shaking, and it's not very clear. So you're so mad because you're like, come on, man, just stay still. And it's kind of the same way. They did the same way, where it's almost like you see it, but then you kind of don't. It's like kind of fuzzy.
Yeah, but it's done in such a realistic way that you would think it was a real like news bulletin or a real like found footage.
Right.
Legitimately scared me.
Yeah, that makes it effective. So it was really cool. Now the second one I have is a clip for, of course, is one of my favorite movies of all time, of course, The Howling. And I've kind of used it in some of my intros and stuff, where basically we get the girl that's the friend of Dee Wallace's character, and she's in the office, and she's finding out that these people are part of these retreat where they are being looked over by this therapist, and she starts finding out like they're all connected in some way, especially to the guy that I think his name's Eddie from the beginning. And then, of course, this happens.
Eddie Quist, I believe.
Yep.
Oof.
Terry?
Even though that came out many years ago, I still think those effects in that suit holds up.
Yeah.
The practical effects are amazing.
Like I look at that when he just swiped her there, I'm thinking, fuck.
And it's like, the thing about that scene is that you would expect maybe just someone's hand coming in and just saying, it might be Eddie in his human form, just saying, "Hey, what's going on?" And then, of course, he does that later on with Dee, where he actually transforms in front of her, which is great. But that scene, you're not expecting a wolf to kind of just take the papers out of her hand. And it's like, it kind of is cool because it shows that these werewolves not only are beasts, but they have a thinking capacity. They're very intelligent. They can still comprehend what's going on in front of them.
The human that turned is still in full control underneath all of it.
Yeah. So how many Howling movies is there altogether in the series? Is there 5?
There's at least 7, I think.
Oh, 7.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was that. Are they still making the Howling movies, or is it just?
No, I think it kind of stopped. But like the only ones I really like, mainly because they kind of stay within this range, is the first one, and of course 5.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
I think I've only seen 1 to 5.
Yeah, I mean they've done different avenues. Like I think Howling 3 was the marsupials or something, and we're doing something almost like with what would you call the Australian dingo almost? Like we're kind of playing off of that a little bit.
Howling 3, the marsupials.
Well,
then I think 6 was like, or either 4 or 6 was the freaks, and that's where they pitted a vampire versus the werewolf. But I didn't like either look of either one of them. I was like very disappointed with that.
Yeah, like
wasn't the vampire just like pavement black skin and that's it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just like what you call it, they remade and trashed one of your favorite films, The Crow. It's a matter of time before they bring the Howling back, and it we're looking at a fucking army of CGI werewolves with fake CGI blood that doesn't capture the emotions, the feels of the original.
I believe there was like a half-hearted reboot that came out.
Oh dear.
Well, American Werewolf in Paris could have been seen as like some sort of spin-off.
See, the thing is, that actually has a decent story. It has good acting. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
However, the werewolves were terrible. Just terrible. Like,
yeah.
CGI
Question, I have a book on the whole franchise. There's
so when are you gonna send that to
me? Keep waiting. The Howling.
You guys suck, man. Everybody's making me wait all the time.
Howling 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We're titty teasing.
2011, The Howling Reborn.
Oh, so they did put another one out.
Well, I will be bringing something over for you, which when I come over to San Diego, I will be getting some posted to you when I get there. I've got a couple of little things, nothing too extravagant. No Anubis, it's not the fucking Godzilla 2000 statue.
You guys are so disappointing.
You can keep fucking dreaming for that one. But anyway, since you brought up an alien reference, something that always disturbed me. There was a film that came out. I don't know if it was a theatrical release or it was a made-for-TV movie. Fire in the Sky. That scene where he gets abducted and they're doing the experimentation. That absolutely terrified me.
But you know what terrified me more than that? So you remember when he finally gets back and he's making the call and he's naked and it's raining and they got him inside that gas station. And like they're trying to figure out, he's like all scared and he's curled up by that window and then he looks and the lightning strikes and then you see like these 3 fingers in the mud, like just kind of like on the window, and he just starts losing it. That is so effing creepy, dude. Because that means even when he was back, they were watching him.
Yeah. And apparently Fire in the Sky was based on a true story as well.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it was so well acted too. I love the main guy.
I really enjoyed it, definitely. Daniel, have you got any more horrible like moments that you were terrified from as a child, or
Yes, I do. Yes, I do indeed. Now, this is in no particular order, but I'm going to start with this one first because this was the first movie I ever watched, and it's also the movie that got me interested in filmmaking, and of course gave me a love and appreciation for cinema. Jaws, 1975,
Oh, yes.
by Steven Spielberg. Now, of course, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, the scene with Ben Gardner's head coming out the hole, that scared me." I mean, it scared me the first time watching it too. Then they're going to be like, "Oh, when the shark lifts his head up when Birdie's like, I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit." But the moment that scared me the most was when Hooper was lowered into the cage. He's adjusting his goggles and he stops, and you just see the silhouette of the shark ghosting into view. That was the moment that actually had me scared, probably more so than the head coming out of the thing, or the remains of Chrissy Walken on the beach, or the attack on the Kintner boy.
Mhm.
Yeah, that moment there, that immediately sent chills down my spine, and I was just silent throughout the entire thing. Even after when the shark disappeared into the distance, I was just stuck to the screen, curled up on the couch, wondering, is it going to happen? Is it going to come back? Is it going to come? Then when you least expect it, boom! The back of the cage gets whacked, and then the shark just starts ripping into the cage, and you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time. And you look at shark movies now, very rarely does one actually come close to that. The Shallows, no, that doesn't even compare. What compares, in my opinion, is the Deep Blue Sea with
Yeah.
moments like that. I think that's a strong contender for Jaws. Never
Yeah, I
mind
like the one
Shallows
that
or
in the lagoon with the guy on a boat and he falls into the water and then you see the silhouette of the shark underneath the water like just a few inches.
yeah.
That's creepy to me. That's very creepy.
It's like the unknown, knowing something's going to happen.
Hmm.
And it's like, nothing, there's nothing scary about No Way Up, so I wouldn't watch that pile of shit. There's nothing scary. There's a film, like, everyone, this is one thing I have never understood. And I was even surprised, each their own. You can like what movies you like. There's a lot of movies you like that I don't like, or vice versa. But I was surprised when Rick Meyer said he thought, basically, and it was one of the film autopsies with Fat Samurai Guy, where he thought Under Paris was like just as good or an amazing shark movie up to the level of Jaws. And I was thinking,
He's not the only one. And there's people out there that really think that movie's good. I'm like,
That's
okay.
absurd.
I think it's mediocre at best, and I think the budgeting was what the best part for me. Fair enough, I enjoyed the bit in the catacombs when the sharks are there. The best bit is how it ended. That was for me how it ended, where all of Paris is basically underwater, and basically the sharks have took over the city, which obviously
For
was
me, it's more just like when it comes to like films and sharks, especially, it's like you can enjoy stuff like Sharknado and stuff, but I tend to gravitate more to stuff that's trying to at least keep it somewhat grounded. So like movies like The Reef, which is actually based off a true story as well.
Yeah.
You don't see a whole lot of the sharks, but like when it happens, like it's like realistic and it works with what they're doing, and I thought that's effective. Did you see that one, Daniel?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
And
so
I
stuff
agree
like
with you on
that
the
very
Reef.
effective for me. I get really makes you feel like it's really there.
Absolutely. You don't actually see it, but you get the sense that something is just there, or just waiting underneath them, circling, or just watching them off in the distance, and you have no idea when or where it's going to attack from.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the Requiem? Oh, the Requiem.
I did a
Did you
review on that one. I thought it was okay, but again, it's kind of going off the deep end a little bit, But I mean, look, I don't get tired of shark films. It's just it's hard to make a really good one.
Yeah, 47 meters down. Did you think of that one?
The first one, I thought it was okay.
I thought the
I
ending
thought it
was good
was-
because the minute you think that it's going to be kind of a happier ending, it's not. And I kind of
Yeah.
like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
there's
problem with it was for what the film was, it was just a little too long.
Probably.
Yeah.
See, for me, there's a couple of shark films that I don't know if you've seen that I'm interested in seeing. I haven't seen Frenzy yet. Have you
Haven't
seen
seen
Friend? I haven't seen Frenzy. I've not seen there's a film. Oh well, I've seen Deep Fear on Netflix. That one for me was more entertaining than Under Paris. It's not an amazing shark movie, but I like the concept of this woman who's got a fear of. She's like she takes people out on dives and she's went through a traumatic experience because she lost her father at sea, and it's like her first going back doing her job, and she goes out there. She finds a capsized boat. She rescues the people on the boat. Turns out the cocaine smugglers, and they're basically because she's the only one equipped to be able to dive into deep water. She's basically there's a capsized boat on the water. There's a capsized boat under the water, and the one deep at the bottom of the ocean, it's got all the cocaine in it. So they basically are threatening her life. They say, right, we need you to go down there and get this cocaine and bring it up. If you don't, we'll kill you right here now. But obviously, the problem is where the ship's capsized at the bottom of the ocean, it's got sharks circling it. So I like the concept of the story. The concept's great, obviously, but because it's like a lower budget movie, the effects aren't that great in it. But I'd rather watch that if I had a choice over Under Paris or No Way Up.
Yeah, if I had to recommend, shark films in general, obviously The Reef is one of them, but I would also
I like The Reef.
Into the Blue with Paul Walker, Jessica Alba, even though it's more of a treasure hunting thing, but a lot of shark action in that. There's a movie called Dark Tide with Halle Berry that's kind of good. I enjoy that one as well.
I don't think I've seen that one.
No masterpiece, but Deep Blue Sea was surprisingly.
Oh yeah.
No, it is. In fact, LL Cool J was amazing in that. He had me laughing the entire time.
The third one was the second one was trash, but the third movie was surprisingly good.
Mm-hmm. You've got one that's just called Great White. I don't know if you've seen that one. What's the other one that I've seen? Open Water.
That's good.
Yes.
Open Water, I really like. The greatest shark film of all time, of course. Sorry, the scariest shark film of all time is obviously The Meg. Because it's fucking terrible. It's that scary. It's terrible. I can tolerate the first one because it did try to be like a darker tone action movie. Obviously, they're not going to go totally R-rated. The second one, though, it's just a retelling of the first one with more sharks. I didn't see any difference.
It's an entire series of books, I think. So it's like I've never read them, but I knew they are based off the books. But it's like,
but the books are proper R-rated and proper. It's basically similar to what they've done with Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You know, the original Jurassic Park books are a lot darker and a lot more sinister than the actual movies. But obviously, because the audience that they've catered for, they can't go down the dark route with the movies. And the same thing with the Meg, they've basically turned it into an action adventure franchise for Jason Statham. But speaking of dinosaurs, I'm looking forward to that new war movie featuring dinosaurs that was announced not long ago. Where I think it's based based in Vietnam, and they go into the jungle and they end up in an uncharted area of the jungle, and when they go to this uncharted area, they discover that it's full of dinosaurs, and obviously, apparently, it's going to be R-rated.
So that Lost World in Vietnam.
Yeah,
basically,
I'm looking forward to that. What's next on your list, Daniel?
What's next on my list? Let me just get there we go. Next on my list now, this one again, no particular order, but this is a Hammer film. This is from the Hammer film, Dracula, Prince of Darkness.
Love it.
Yeah, and this one is the scene where Dracula is resurrected. So the servant in Dracula's castle, Clove, he kills one of the 4 main characters who are spending the night in the castle after they've been left by a scared wagon driver in the woods. He kills him and basically cuts open his body over Dracula's casket, and all of his blood is just pouring onto Dracula's ashes, which revives him. And you have this really intricate, this really fantastic scene where it's just one shot after another of a corpse being reanimated. Like first you have the flesh on bones, then you have the nervous system, then you have layers upon layers of skin, and it's just covered over with mist. And then the music crescendos, and all you just see after Clove's reaction is Dracula's hand coming up out of the casket. And then of course symbolizing that he's been reborn. But yeah, that movie, along with Hammer's first Dracula, I'd highly recommend. I'd recommend them both from in terms of storytelling, the production design, the acting as well. Christopher Lee was an excellent Dracula, along with Bela Lugosi, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Daniel or anybody here, if you ever make it to the UK up to the northeast and you end up coming to Newcastle, an hour and a half away, you can get to Whitby, which, as you know, was the birthplace of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And they have the Dracula Experience. And in the Dracula Experience, they actually have one of the capes and costumes that Christopher Lee wore in the Hammer That horror films. And the thing when you see the suit, because I do know he's a very tall gentleman, you see the mannequin that's obviously the suit's on, and honestly, the size of the mannequin. So I was looking at the mannequin, I was thinking, my God, Christopher Lee must have been one hell of a size man.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. So, and you know what? I think Christopher Lee himself was more scary than Dracula because of his history. If you've read up on Christopher Lee, he served in the war, he fought and killed Nazis. And I'm sure he actually had a famous quote about when he was on the set and somebody had a knife or a gun, and
that was a Return of the King when Saruman got stabbed. He informed Peter Jackson, this is how it would sound if someone gets stabbed.
Because he's actually killed and stabbed people himself.
Like, he was British intelligence. He even told Peter Jackson, like, some of the stuff I did, I'm still not allowed to talk about.
Yep, well, they'll be under embargo. And also with all that, he knew Ian Fleming as well, who, as you know, was the creator of
James Bond.
So he's one thing about Christopher Lee's had such an amazing life and amazing career. So DJ Anubis, you've got more clips and more horror moments?
Yeah, so the first one I had no clip for anybody that's ever seen Hereditary. There's a nice little scene towards the end with Toni Collette, who's an amazing actress, where she's basically the main son walks into an area, I think it's an attic or something, and he hears basically this sawing motion. And what ends up happening, he looks up and it's dark and he sees his mother, and it's Toni Collette's character, and she's basically got this wire around her neck that she's taking her own head off. And it's just it's horrifying, just incredibly disgusting. Just, I didn't expect it, and even the ending is even more bizarre. But the one thing I like about, and when it comes to horrific scenes or scary scenes or whatever, is it always comes down to a combination of things like musical score, editing, story, and acting. So if everything's working, then you're definitely going to feel it. So that's why we talk about with Jaws, the theme of Jaws with Williams and his score and stuff like that. So it plays an importance when you're watching horror films that everything is lining up perfectly for that scene.
Yeah.
When it comes
Well-
to when we're talking about like just all those elements, the one clip I have is from one of the best movies ever, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
You could probably pick so many scenes out of this that'd be kind of horrifying, but the one I always kind of always gets me is when Nancy's falling asleep in class.
Mhm.
She starts dreaming and she gets up, and it's right after her friend Tina has been killed, and she walks out into the hallway, and this happens.
Tina?
I just love the little hand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tina?
So yeah.
Yes.
What's up, Sentry?
Yes,
What is up,
joining.
man?
Hello.
Yes. Joining us as well is Mr. Sci-Fi Century of the Sci-Fi Society. Welcome to another Let's Talk Live. And the topic that we're talking about, sci-fi, is our favourite horror moments in horror movies. So basically, moments in horror movies that frightened with or give with the heebie-jeebies, or your favorite kills in horror movies. So off the top of your head, do you have a horror movie or a moment in a horror movie that you remember as a kid that really frightened you and that stays with you today?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for letting me jump in. I mean, I lost track of time. I was asleep. Did a lot this week, but did a lot this past week, but it kicked my ass. But anyways, the one that I can first think about when I think I was about 9, maybe 10 years old, and I think it's when I saw The Thing.
Yes.
I saw The Thing, and it was it would have to be a tie between seeing the dogs, the dogs,
Dogs.
yeah, the dogs, and well, the dogs was pretty damn, horrifying, for a 10-year-old like me, and then I would say the second one would be when I don't know I forgot what name it was, but it was the same movie, and it's the guy with the receding hairline with the beard, and he was getting, I saw when he was already getting like absorbed by the thing, and then they all go out, and
Bennings.
they all see him going, like walking out, and then they catch up with him, and they see, oh, they're calling to him, but then you could see his arm, like it's like already, like it's really long, and it's already like he's finally being how can I say it, he was finally being absorbed, and he was being taken over, and then he
finished the job.
yeah, and then when he just lets out that shrieking,
Mhm.
like roar / sound from the thing, and he, like, you could see the breath coming out of him, I was like, yeah, that at that point had to probably be the most scary, the probably the most like skin crawling moment like that really like stayed with me, man. Pretty much just stayed with me.
Yeah.
Another moment in The Thing that always stands out, when the guy has the heart attack and he goes to save his life and he loses his hands.
Chest burst.
Yeah.
His whole rib cage and chest opens up and he loses his hands. I never read the book and I didn't know if that was in the book. I just remember being younger and watching that scene. And when that happened and the chest burst open and he lost his hand, I probably screamed like a little bitch, because
Well,
it's something that I just did not see coming. And I was like, fucking hell, he's lost his hands.
What makes the Bennings scene more effective when you realize that scream is not to be intimidating, that the scream is because the thing is scared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another
like
part, another
Go ahead.
part about The Thing is that it's the final act. It's where they're setting up the explosives in the basement of the camp. Niles sees Gary being dragged away behind some lockers, and he walks over to see what's going on. And then when McCready calls out, "How's it coming in there?" It's just silence. There's no sound effect, no dialogue, nothing. He's just gone. We have no idea what the hell happened to Niles. And it's like, Jesus.
Like,
Christ.
I know, Anthony, you're a massive fan of The Thing, and you know more about The Thing than me. So, The Thing's one book, isn't it?
Who goes?
It was okay. It's
Is it
not, first there was a full book written called Frozen Hell, but the author couldn't get that book sold, and he was told to condense it into a shorter book, and that's where we got the story Who Goes There, which The Thing was based off of.
Is there a sequel novel or a prequel novel as well?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that was all he did.
There
It'd
is a
be
compilation.
interesting. But there would be interesting if he's actual.
Well, actually,
full-on
there's
book.
I don't know what happened, but there was a Kickstarter for it, and there's a fan-made sequel novel some people were working on called The Things.
Yeah,
All
there's
right,
called
like-
audio narration on YouTube.
The fact that he
But
had
this
to
isn't
shorten his
exactly
story and had to thin in his book down to get it published. Were you really interested to see what the full actual concept of his book was?
Yeah,
If it
apparently
went
they did
further?
re-release. They did find the manuscript, and they were re-releasing or are releasing the full Frozen Hell. But to bring up what the professor said, this isn't connected to that narration. The Things. This sequel is just its own thing.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
it's
compilation of short stories called Short Things, and it's basically a series of short stories all inspired by Campbell's original writing. And one of them was written by Alan Dean Foster, who, if I remember correctly, was one of the writers of the screenplay for Alien.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And also, I just found this out when I was doing my when I was reviewing The Thing back many years ago for a college project, that Alan Dean Foster also wrote a novelization of the movie script by Bill Lancaster.
All right.
Yeah, you can get Frozen Hell on Amazon for $15.
Yeah,
Well, I might have a
there it
look.
is.
So that's the full book.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I got
Alright.
two moments I want to bring up, and it's from a remake, an original and a remake.
Well, you keep talking. I'm just going to quickly nip out. I'll come back. I'll let you carry on. 1 second.
One is a scene from the original Blob, and if you've seen it, it's the scene with two mechanics working in a garage, and one is getting ready to leave at the night, and he's talking, and you see the Blob like behind the car, and his friend leaves, and he's just relatable, complaining about his boss, and he's like, "In this weekend, I'm gonna get so stinking warm drunk, and when I come back the morning, if the boss looks at me funny, do you know what I'm gonna do? Do you know what I'm gonna do?" And you just see the Blob inching closer, and then you see his point of view of the Blob falling in on him, and you like see his legs pulled back. It doesn't show nothing, but it is super effective. As much as people criticize that movie for being campy and cheesy, it does have some great horror moments in it. And the second from the remake is the scene in the doctor's office where they find the half-eaten old man.
The ceiling.
Yeah, and the guy goes, and if they pull a Psycho because you think this is going to be the main character, he goes in the doctor's office. You see the door move in the thing, and it just drops in on him, and we get that just great, terrifying, claustrophobic scene where he's all but his arm is covered by the Blob, which it was a quilt. It was a silk quilt coated in the stuff they used to thicken milkshakes, and it was even horrifying for the actor because the more takes they had to do, the more claustrophobic, but it was gruesome. And just thinking about that death and how not only is it excruciatingly painful, but just the claustrophobic that in addition to being dissolved alive, he's also being suffocated. It's one of those scenes that it just gets under your skin.
Yeah.
Mm.
I gotta say something. Y'all are a bunch of sick motherfuckers.
Well, what can I say? Welcome to the
But I love it. But
club.
I love it. But I love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
If anybody watching, I'm having, a nice drink in my Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire cup, and I'm eating a lot of popcorn out of me Godzilla New Empire popcorn bucket.
Ooh,
Have a
that's
look at
some
that,
fighting
Anubis.
words.
Be
There's some
careful.
fighting words for Anubis, man. Anubis is gonna be like, he's already got that look. He's like, you didn't. No, you did not.
No,
Wait,
I
no.
had
But
to
what
do
did
it the
we?
whole fucking stream.
Wait, Kevin, about the drink. Are you consuming the stuff or is the stuff consuming you?
Good movie.
Yeah.
Partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Well,
God. Stuff. Now,
every
that is a
time,
movie I've seen in ages.
every time this year, I always read the same book. I must have read this book 20,000 times. It's, of course, Dracula,
Nice.
the original. I read this once a year. I feel like Christopher Lee, because Christopher Lee once a year used to read The Lord of the Rings back to back. And speaking of Dracula, one of the scenes out of a vampire movie that always freaked me out is the scene in The Lost Boys. I said The Lost Boys. It's the scene, in the bathtub when
Oh.
in
yeah.
the back full of garlic and holy water, and he gets knocked into the bathtub, and obviously he starts burning. That scene always freaked me out as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
You know what? There's another one. I saw it. When I saw Bram Stoker's Dracula for Coppola's when I think I
Mhm.
saw it in 1990 or
Two.
and I was like I said I was still young. This was all before I saw Faces of Death, and I became totally numb after that. It was I think it was a part where the brides are gonna start eating the baby.
Oh, that was very
Oh.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a part where the brides were gonna eat the baby, and then Keanu Reeves his reaction was just like freaking wow. That was pretty intense, and I was like, oh man, whatever. I mean, I'm as a kid, so you're thinking you're thinking this shit's pretty much real, right? But it was just a movie. But in your
Yeah.
mind, when you're a kid, you're like damn, like now I'm not gonna be able to sleep. But but no, I had to mention that one too because that, like I said, after I saw Faces of Death like 2 years later, man, I was like, I'm totally numb, bro. If I see Faces of Death, I'm like, I see all these other horror movies, like, man, that's amateur. That's amateur stuff.
Yeah. And he has a thing that I think especially if you're a young, guy, the scene in, especially with it being a kid in it, when in The Shining, when he goes into the room and he sees the lady in the bathtub,
Yeah.
and then she turns out to be this older, grotesque lady. And you know what made me laugh? And it's my favourite moment in Ready Player One, where they did the exact same
Yeah.
That's what
scene.
I'm saying. Once you see that movie, it's like it takes away the fear from the first one.
But it
He's
was
like,
still.
"Hey, naked lady, I gotta go."
It was so well done, though. Ready
Mhm.
Player One is such an amazing, underrated movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard mixed people liking it and disliking. I think there's a lot of people sleep on Ready Player One, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. I mean, two things. One about Ready Player One. If you read the book, there's a section where they go to a tokusatsu level where they have Ultraman and Mechagodzilla on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, going back to vampires, one thing that creeps me out in a vampire film is the scene where Danny Glick is scratching on his brother's window in Salem's Lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Because all you have is just Harry Zuckerman's music, just a plucking of strings, And
He's
he's
just kind
like
of
that
floating
shore.
there.
Yeah,
It's
What's
so
it?
terrifying.
yeah, he's just doing that.
Mhm.
So since we
Till it
brought it up,
opens up the
what?
window, and it's just
Yeah.
God.
Since you brought it up,
Scenes creepy. Read the book and wait till you get to the scene where it's Susan tapping on Danny's window. It is so much more disturbing.
well, since
You
you
know what?
brought it up, I have done a reaction to the new trailer for the new Salem's Lot. If people would like to check that out, so is DJ Anubis at the Metal Tavern Radio. But
It's been going
speaking
off
as
the
a
hook
group,
too. Freaking 1,300 views. It's insane.
yeah, well, mine's done better than I thought. I've got over 300 and odd views. Where some of me trailers, do well, some of them don't. But like you, me Salem's Lot one's doing quite well. But
300,
speaking,
300K? I mean, 3K?
no, 300.
300.
Who has 300? Who has 300 views? Anubis?
No, Kevin, I have 1,300 views.
Holy
Yeah.
shit, dude! Holy
I-
wow!
I
I
have
just think
300.
people are really interested in that remake.
Yeah,
You
I've got
guys are getting up there.
391 views currently.
You guys are getting up there, man. I mean, our Sci-Fi Society Underworld has what 1.0 so 1.09 K
Yeah.
views.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm. Well, we got our review we did. So if people are into kaiju who watch this and you like your kaiju genre, your kaiju music, 329 views so far on the Gappa review. And we did this one many months ago, but I noticed that the Evil Dead franchise discussion that we did, part of the Into the Darkness, that went up. That has currently 777 views.
Wow!
In the last I checked for that, it had just over 380 views. So for over the last few weeks, it suddenly just skyrocketed. So
All you guys are killing it, man.
It's interesting to see how people are reacting to certain genres, and I think because we are in the month of September, into fall, into autumn, a lot of people are looking for a lot of dark horror content. These are the months for horror.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Ooh, and just wait for Pitch Black and your vampire ones, and then your vampire ones coming up.
mhm.
He's got stuff for Warlock. Yeah, there's a
Yes,
lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, I'll join the Warlock one. But I only see I've only seen the first one. The first one's my favorite, man, but I didn't see the other two.
The
Well-
third one's on Tubi.
Yeah.
well, for those that are interested that watch this and are wondering what's coming up on the channel in October, we have Taste the Blood, the month of the vampire. And so that's coming up in October, and we have a load of great content coming up. So the first thing we do have, like Anubis said, we have a Warlock review, the Warlock franchise review. We have a retro classic movie show, which is Sleepy Hollow. But when it comes to vampires, we are going to be doing this one, which is the Subspecies franchise discussion, which I am really excited to do, especially after I come back from Romania and visit Bran Castle, where I'll be bringing to the channel a very special personal blog. But also we'll have these coming up. We'll have Taste the Blood Vampire Special Part 1. The guest list isn't finalised yet, and then we'll also have Taste the Blood Part 2, but potentially we could end up doing a Taste the Blood Part 3 if we can get a Film Fanatic on board, because I'd like to do The Lost Boys, Fright Night 1
Yeah.
and 2 all together. I think them three would be a good choice for 80s classic vampire films. But carrying on, Anubis, if you got more clips to show or more horror moments that you'll enjoy.
Yeah, so one that I don't have a clip for, but really love this movie. I've talked about it in my review of it. I've talked about it before. In fact, when I was on with Samurai doing Dr. Giggles, I kind of mentioned this with Larry Drake, 80s TV movie called Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. Basically, you have a very mentally retarded man who's befriended a young girl, and she ends up getting attacked by a dog, which when he brings her back to her mother to take to the hospital, she thinks that the older mentally retarded man harmed her, which is played by Larry Drake. So what ends up happening is the town mailman and a couple other dads get together and vigilante style try to go after him, and he plays his game with his mom where he hides within this scarecrow outfit out in the middle of the field, and they find him and they shoot him and kill him. And then that's just it. And then of course he comes back to exact revenge, but throughout that entire revenge process, you never see him doing the deeds. Like you just see these guys being taken out one by one. But till the very end, when the mailman's trying to chase down this little girl who has been seeing Bubba, her friend, and is out in the middle of the pitch black in the field playing hide and seek. Eventually, at the very end, she's like, "Yay, we can play a different game, Bubba." And that's the first time you see this scarecrow turn its head and look at her. But it's kind of an endearing moment, too. It's not like she was in any danger, but it was like that first time you're like, oh, shit. As for my clip, this is a movie I highly, highly recommend. You can find it streaming just about anywhere most days. A movie called Lake Mungo. And it's kind of like a documentary. Basically, it centers around a family with a young daughter who ends up drowning in a lake. And after effects, the family start to think that they're seeing signs that she's a ghost haunting their home. And then, of course, there's all these other things that unravel. Like, oh my God, she was being kind of used as a sex pawn with the neighbors, and were they involved with the girl being depressed because she was seeing a therapist. So eventually, you get to this point where the mother and the father are trying to figure out what happened, like why their daughter either committed suicide or just whatever happened. So eventually they get a hold of her phone. They find out that her phone, she had buried her phone out in this desert when she was on a field trip with some friends. And they get it and they charge it up. Miraculously, it charges up, and they get a hold of some footage that she's filming. And so what she does is she ends up walking in the dark, and she's kind of narrating to her therapist what her dream is like, but it's not really a dream. It's something that she experienced. And so here's the clip where she basically, in the dark by herself, runs into her future self.
Closer. And I don't feel ready. I feel like I can't do anything.
And so that is like a scene from when they actually pull her out of the water. That's what she looks like. So she'd actually run into herself. But some of the other creepy parts about this film is that the brother at one point had tried to stage things to show like that she was haunting the house, and he had like different pictures of the backyard, videotapes in the house. And of course, they debunked a lot of this, and then the son admitted that he had made some things up. But towards the end of the film, throughout the credits, the same shots he had, and dude, I'm getting just goosebumps thinking about it. It's not where he did his miracle magic with his editing. It's like you see on the side that she really is there in the film. So like she shows up in these clips, not where you expected. So it's really, really effective. It's very creepy. Highly recommend this for anybody that's into like this kind of stuff. It's very underrated. Lake Mungo, definitely.
Going back to a film that you mentioned before, Shadow of the Scarecrow.
Dark Knight Scarecrow,
yeah. It's very funny that you brought that up, because I was actually looking at that the other day, and I haven't seen it, but I watched the trailer on Amazon Prime because it's free. And I was actually going to suggest that after your next pick to do that is the next cinematic synergy. Because I
fine with
haven't
that.
seen it, and I thought to myself, you know what? I think this would be right up Anubis' street. But the fact
yeah.
that I was thinking of that, and you brought it up, was crazy.
Sorry to give away that end for you.
It's okay. Well, I probably
you'll still very much enjoy it. It's such a wonderful movie.
Yes. So, is anybody else got any more horror
I got
moments?
two.
I'll let Daniel go first.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I got two. First one. Now, these are very iconic movies. The first one is when Regan McNeil is being possessed in The Exorcist. So we see her mother downstairs. She's upset because the detective has just left after she basically shooed him out, saying, "Oh no, she's just unwell at the moment. She'll be fine." But she knows that's not really the case. She hears screaming from upstairs and shouting. She goes into the room. There's things flying all around the room. Then you have Regan going, "Let Jesus fuck you, let Jesus." And then she tries to wrestle the crucifix from her. I mean, it's a really graphic, very brutal scene, especially when she gets basically backhanded across the face by her own daughter. The door slams closed. The door slams shut, and she tries to get out of it, but then Regan's head does a complete 180, and she's like, "You know what she did? Your daughter." And it's just like, Jesus Christ. And bear in mind, this was probably the first movie to do with possession that's ever done. And anything else since then just has not compared, in my opinion. Yeah.
So you guys watch more like horror. I like horror, but I'm more like the sci-fi horror, and the sci-fi horror is pretty scarce. But
Well,
the ones you come up with, the ones you come up with are like, damn, like I gotta watch more damn fucking horror movies.
oh yeah, I can watch a bit of everything. Me.
Well, I can understand, like, because like, there's so many elements in different parts of horror. Like, when it comes to like slasher stuff, I'm a little bit more 80s than I am any modern stuff. I mean, there are a few handful that are good, but stuff like Lake Mungo or even like Hereditary or The Witch, like a little bit more atmospheric, just things that I kind of like that are different than stuff that you normally would see. Or in some cases, if we talk like, Audition or Asian horror in some ways are effective in some ways. So it's like, it just depends on what you're looking for. But I know how some people are like, I just hate all the Jason and Michael Myers shit. It's like, yeah, there is more horror outside of that element. So
the next one I was going to bring up is actually related to the Friday the 13th franchise. It's Jason's revival from Jason Lives. Yeah. I mean, it's a movie that it both send chills. The first time seeing it, I was chilled to the bone, but I was also really hyped because it's like, this is one of the most badass entrances for any of like the 80s slasher icons. So it's like after you just basically Mortal Kombated Tommy's friend Horace. Yeah, there he is. CJ Graham played him in that movie. Yeah, after he just Mortal Kombated Horace right through his chest cavity, taking out his heart, then Tommy just runs off in fear because it's basically his fault Jason's back in the first place. But then the scene really shines when Jason gets his hockey mask back and he turns towards the camera and just have that quick cut into his lifeless eyes in the hockey mask. Then you have that little parody of James Bond where Jason just slices across the camera. Then you just have the title sequence comes up. That was both chilling in terms of the set design because Tom McLaughlin turned to the classic Gothic style of horror from
that was very much a universal horror cemetery.
Yes. Think Frankenstein or Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. At least that scene where they bring the Wolfman out from his tomb. But yeah, brilliant. Favorite moment in the Friday franchise for me.
On that subject, the next time you watch that movie, set your TV to black and white. It's like it becomes a whole different movie.
Yeah.
Jason wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Yeah. 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 God
When
damn.
before Mortal Kombat was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Said it right there.
I was gonna say there's one that I remember. It comes from not too scary a film, but more of a action kind of horror, and that's of course my favorite. Aside from the first one, my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors, and that's the one where Freddy goes to, I forgot his name, the guy that makes dolls. He makes those dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot his name, and he cuts each one of his legs while he's sleeping, and then he gets his veins or his cartilages or something, and he just pulls them all up, and you just see like
You
just see him all like, like a marionette. Yeah, he becomes like a marionette, and you see the blood and the tendons or whatever he uses. I was like, ooh, I was like that was. I mean, it was hard for me. It was hard for me to be scared because like that to me that was more of an action movie. But it was pretty it was pretty disturbing though when I thought it was like, wow, I thought about like, oh shit, imagine somebody doing that and using your cartilage skin to use you as a marionette. I was like, oh yeah.
Is the Dream Warriors, is that the one with the telly where he becomes the telly?
Yeah.
Welcome to prime time, bitch.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite death in the Freddy in that film. And we've got Kaiju Ricky joining. We're watching, and he's just put this comment up. The Saw franchise has so many horror deaths to name, which is true.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, and I like what Anubis has put as well, which I agree that I never, because don't forget, before it was a franchise, I think this was just like a medium to low budget horror film that just, like many films, they start off as just an original idea that materializes and just goes wild.
Yeah.
Like John Wick was meant to be a one and done. Taken was meant to be a one and done. Obviously, this was meant to be a one and done. I'm assuming Terrifier was probably meant to be a one and done. But that ending with Jigsaw right at the end with the body, if you've not seen it, in sorry for spoilers, but it's been out a long time, where he basically comes up out of the ground. He comes up off this thing and amazing. And obviously since then the deaths have got more over the top, more at the
thing that makes that work so well is just a misdirection of the director, because you're so involved with like the two guys that are locked in there, all the backstory, why they're there, etc. And then to have this dude just you kind of forgot about just laying there start to get up, it's like, what the fuck just happened? Like, and it's so well done. So well done.
See, I was gonna say what we were talking about yesterday, Anthony, Kaiju Goodness, and the Professor, was when Hannibal was he took, I don't know if it was Ray Liotta, but he opened up his brain pan and then started frying up one of his brains and eating it, and I was like, woo! I was like, this is interesting.
That's like monkey brain stuff right there.
Yeah.
I remember in the Soul, for me, the worst death is it the reverse bear trap? Yeah, that one. And there was one where I see there's that many deaths. See, the thing is, Souls just went over the top, like Scream. I couldn't give a shit about Scream now. It's just, I watched the first three and then I've never I can watch the other ones, but I don't really go back to them. Another franchise, Final Destination.
Yeah, the first one was good. I didn't care much for. I'm like you. I'm like, I saw Scream, man. Even Scream was like, I was like, it's like they try to make it like a, of course it was the 90s, but it kind of make it feel like a little like an 80s, like preempt, like how do you say it?
I
not like
like both the first two screens, but I kind of get what Century's saying. The only thing about Scream that I always thought was one of the weaker points, and even though I do think Scream is a great movie, the opening scene with Drew Barrymore is so horrific that it's like you think you're going to be going through this entire dreadful movie where you're just not going to get let up, but because they've got some of the comedy in there, and what Craven does is he kind of takes you on this roller coaster. So whereas like the very first Nightmare on Elm Street, there's no real comedic let up, he kind of reverses on Scream, and he kind of does that. Like that opening scene in Scream is one of the best I've seen, because you're just like, oh my god, this is going to be the most horrific movie ever, and then like all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, okay, we're just going to do this up and down, up and down, up and down, and then it's still fine. I still enjoy it a lot, but it's those opening scenes that I find the best.
Like you're right. And then like Ghostface, that kind of threw me off when I saw it. I was like, okay, yeah, it's interesting, and it's a good idea for a 90s thing, but I was like, it was kind of hard for me to be afraid of a dude wearing a suit like that. If they would have gone something a little more darker, it would have been, this is just my opinion. I'm not bashing it, it's still a good film.
The whole point was they chose that because it was such a generically common mask at the time that it was something anybody could have gotten.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Well, that's true. It's like of course that's true. It's like you throw a little bit of mystery
about that though, Century. Like I went around the time that all that was out. My friend was going to college in UVA, and so I went up there, and it was around Halloween, of course, and we had the bright idea that he's like, we're going to go as Ghostface. We're going to do both costumes. So he had this woman that he knew make up the robes, and then we got the mask. I cannot tell you the effect that it has on people, because you have to realize a lot of college kids are dressing up. The girls are dressing up all hot. The guys are dressing up silly. We walk in, no one sees our faces, and we had actual knives, but we put these like protective coverings on the blade so that, obviously we wouldn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But we had them, and so like just the girls were terrified. That's just how effective these were, actually, because they were right on the nose. And so it's like it was so crazy just to see people how at that time were like you were trying to go hit on a chick, and it wouldn't happen because they didn't want to talk to you. They're like, oh no, good, you're good. I don't know who you are. Bye.
You're like, hey, baby girl, you want to know the size of my blade?
Right.
She'll be running off, be screaming like, hey, I'm just joking. Come on, I'm just joking. They're not real. They're plastic, but actually they're real. But no, they're plastic.
I suppose the grave is good deaths.
No, but it's a good one.
I think that's more. I agree with the comment, though. I think that's more disturbing. Like when she's in the cabin and you have the police officer, or that bit happens after. But when they invade and they're going to rape her, and you've got like the one who's like, he's not the small one. He's like got obviously issues, and he doesn't want to do anything, but it's under peer pressure. He forces himself to do what he does. And I found that quite disturbing. Like the fact that, that happened. And then when she comes back and she goes after them and she gets her revenge, and then it's just awesome.
That's funny, because there's a good doc on that with the director of that and some of the actors involved. And so the girl, the actress doesn't really look back on it in any real bad way, but it was funny because the main guy, who was one of the guys that was raping her, not really raping her, but in theory, he never did films after that. That movie scarred him just from a male point of view, that he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. But they did show a sign of solidarity with her, because she was nude through a lot of that film. So the guys are like, yeah, we're going to just go ahead and take our clothes off so that we don't make her feel as uncomfortable being the only one naked. So they were doing that to kind of show support, like, you're not the only one that's going to be going through this. So that was kind of cool of them for doing that.
Yeah, definitely.
I was gonna say another pretty brutal scene was when I saw it goes back to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and when with Victor and I guess his bride, they're about to get it on, and then
Oh,
he
I
goes,
know what you mean. You're gonna
yeah,
say.
he goes, Victor, they hear something, and Victor goes outside, and then freaking Frankenstein just crawls up on the bed with her, and then right when Victor comes back in, he just freaking he just rips her heart out, literally. He goes through her chest and just rips her heart out, and he says, "I keep my promises."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I quite, I do enjoy the film Mary Shelley's Frank, but I don't know if you feel the same, but I always found having Robert De Niro playing the creature a funny choice.
Yeah, because he's a pretty short guy.
Mhm.
He's
Like, I
pretty
know they
short,
were
man.
going for like a different angle or a different approach, but I just found it. But he did a great job in the role. I was still waiting for him to say something like, "I'm from Brooklyn. Where you from?" I was waiting for him to drop something.
Did you ever see
I got
Ken Russell's Gothic with Julian Sands? That was kind of based around that.
I
No, I've
haven't.
never heard of that.
I
It's
got
from the 80s. It's very good. It's a weird flick. It has Gabriel Byrne in it and some other actresses, but it was sort of kind of like the backstory to how Mary Shelley came up with the idea of Frankenstein, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I mean, I never heard of it, but
Yeah, I would check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit trippy and weird, but it's cool. I guess since Kevin took a break, I'll just go into my last one here for me.
I wouldn't get my two, and I was going to go after Daniel Miller.
Oh, go ahead.
Your two first. You go with the clips first. I want to see them.
Okay, well, one is not even really a clip, but good movie. It's more kind of like a thriller, but it is horror-esque in some ways. Very underrated. It's a film called Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon, and there's a scene where basically he's just a normal family father. He's got a son and a wife, and he ends up turning. He doesn't believe in the supernatural, but the wife's sister is into like Ouija boards and stuff like that. So he goes and he does like some little seance with them, and it opens his door to his brain. So then all of a sudden he starts seeing this dead girl in the house as a ghost. And the whole movie is about him unraveling the mystery of why she's there. Like, is she giving him signs? But there was like a real creepy scene where he kind of goes in these phases where it could be just a normal setting, daylight or whatever, and all of a sudden, boom, it turns into like this dark shadow zone that he's in. And he turns and he sees the ghost, and she's there. And then all of a sudden, she understands that he can see her because she's been trying to communicate through other means to the son. So when she realizes he can see her, she kind of like walks in this creepy ghost-like way, and it just freaks him the fuck out. And in fact, it's so traumatizing to him that once he comes out of this like trance or whatever, he's very thirsty. So he's at one point he's like filling up the refrigerator with like OJ, and he's like drinking like gallons of OJ all the time after these episodes. But it's very effective, very cool. It's like kind of a murder mystery thing. Highly recommend that to anybody that's never seen that. As far as my clip, it's actually a movie that was redone by America. I do like the original just as much. It's from 2004 called The Grudge. And this scene always the one that stood out to me because this just creepy as fuck. I can't get over it. I barely go back to this film because it's so creepy that it unnerves me.
So this is the original Grudge.
This is the remake. This one here, this clip is, but both of them are very good. Just like The Ring and Ringu are both very good. It's one of the few occasions where the remakes are just as good as the original. Of course, this has Sarah Michelle Gellar, who a lot of people are familiar with, but this is a scene from the staircase, which still unnerves me a lot.
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah,
god.
yeah. Her neck, and everything popping, cracking, and snapping. I'm like, yeah, I remember that.
She makes a lot of like I can't even do the noise she makes, but it's so unnerving.
I was. Well, I'll go after.
I think
After Professor. After.
I think
After. I just have one. I just have two more in it, but I'll go after Anthony or
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
Professor.
yeah,
I
I
have
think
one
Anthony
more.
had one. I think Anthony had one. He wanted
I
to
have
say.
two,
Oh,
Yes.
well, there
and
you go.
they're both endings.
Right. Well,
One-
we'll go with Anthony, then we'll go with Sci-Fi, and then we'll go with Daniel Miller.
Yeah, one is the ending from the original Wolfman, when Sir John finally comes across Larry as the Wolfman, and he didn't believe it, and he has to fend off the Wolfman and beat him to death with the cane. And then when he dies and he turns back into Larry, just you don't need words, just the look of just grief and regret on Claude Rains' face. Not only that I just killed my son, but I should have listened to him this whole time. He was trying to tell me what the problem was, and I didn't believe it. And it just ends that way on that very down and sad note with just, again, that haunting look on Claude Rains' face that I can't compliment. Everyone loves to for Universal Monsters. He gets all the love for the Wolfman, for the Invisible Man, but I don't think he gets enough credit for Sir John and the Wolfman, because that just how powerful that last scene was.
I agree.
But sorry, what?
No, I was saying I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a masterpiece of a scene.
Yeah.
I
Well.
think the net's kind of getting.
Go ahead.
So what's
And
your
my-
next? Yeah. What's your next one?
The ending for Halloween 4, where we see a mask go on a face, and these hands grab a pair of scissors. Then we hear Jamie's stepmom scream just once. Rachel and her father run to the stairways, and they're stunned. Loomis, thinking it's Michael, comes with the gun, and even he's stunned. And Sheriff Meeker knocks the gun out of Loomis's hands, grabs it, and aims up the stairs. And you even see the horror on his face, and it's Jamie standing at the top of the stairs, covered in her mother's blood. That scene, like the first time I saw Halloween 4, which is my favorite Halloween, I didn't like it because of how effective that ending was. But now it's just like, it's that ending is one of the main reasons that's my favorite Halloween film. It keeps with the theme. You can't kill evil. Maybe, yeah, the vessel carrying the evil can die, but the evil will move on to someone else, and that is just an absolutely chilling ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a good metaphor.
They just never did anything else with it, though.
They should.
Very true.
No,
So there was like the way that comes across, though, they kind of tried to, like, obviously the later films, like before they rebooted it or before H2O, they tried to make it more like a supernatural thing than a basic like serial killer series, which I think takes away from the actual, franchise. Especially with like the cult and the last film before H2O where you hear Loomis scream and you don't actually know what's happened. in, you know, to him, or there's rumors he was possessed, or there's rumors, you know, he becomes the new Michael Myers, or he's get, you know, something like that, in that effect. Sci-fi, your next horror moment.
Yeah, mine will be quick. I got two of them. They're not too scary, but it was the first one is from Event Horizon when DJ gets eviscerated by Weir, and they show when they go into the med bay, and DJ is like right there, like pinned up by the sutures and everything, and his bowels are just like all over the medic table.
Yeah.
And, that one, and I mean, there's a lot of great ones from Event Horizon, but that's the only one that I can remember right now. And then another one goes to Constantine with Keanu Reeves, where it's actually like it's like in the beginning where that immigrant or that person, I don't know if it was Mexico or whatever, he finds the spear. I don't know what they called it. I think they called it the Spear of Destiny. I don't know, but he finds a spear that has a connection to to hell or whatever, and he just gets fully possessed, taken over. And then right as he's trying to walk across the street, like I did not expect that right away, and he's about to cross the street, and he automatically gets hit by a car, and it's so quick and fast, so you don't expect it. But the car's front gets shattered, and then he just gets right back up and just starts running again. So yeah, those are the only ones that I was able to think of right now. But those are the ones that I remember. But yeah, Event Horizon with DJ getting it's like a Hellraiser kind of callback where it's just his whole body's opened up, his body's all opened up. But those are the ones I can think about right now.
That process is and it's disturbing that there's even a term for this, but it's called vivisection.
There's speaking of like decapitations and all that, before Daniel gives the scene in Hereditary where the daughter gets her head chopped off. And there's even a scene, I believe, in one of the Final Destinations where the train is and the wire cuts someone's head off as well.
Yeah.
And the reason this death scares me in the Final Destination film, because I believe it's something that could happen by accident. This in the very first one, the shower scene where he's having a shower and he hangs himself by slipping on soap.
Slipped. Yeah.
And it's the bloodshot eyes. Like that really freaks me out, because I could actually see that's for me a death that could actually happen. But that's what freaked me out with that one. So Daniel Miller, your next two choices.
Right, this is my final one. Now, this is from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. If has anyone seen that one?
Yes,
it's been a while.
Yeah, so it's the climax of the film. It's where Lila, Marion's sister, is inside the house. Norman is running into the house because he knows that Lila's gone in there while Sam was distracting him. She takes cover underneath the staircase and then goes into the basement of the house. She goes into the fruit cellar and sees who she thinks is Mrs. Bates sitting there in the chair underneath the bowl. She's like, Mrs. Bates. Then she turns the chair around and you just have this corpse, this boneless corpse with a wig and the dress on, just sitting there. And the first time seeing that, when you realize that it wasn't Mrs. Bates doing all the killing, it's like, holy shit, what the hell just happened? Then Norman appears, dressed up as his mother with the wig and the knife, screaming out in her voice, I'm Norma Bates. You get it now. Norman has a personality disorder, but the first time seeing it, it just completely annihilates any sense of comprehension that you have. And it's like, what the hell? What am I just seeing? But then it gets even creepier with the internal monologue that Norman has. Well, really, Mother has, while Norman is just sitting there in the jail cell. And it's like, I'm not going to swat that fly. They'll see and they'll know, and they'll say, why, she wouldn't harm a fly. then it just has that small montage of a skeleton on his face just before it turns toward the car being dredged up from the swamp.
And that skull is so brief and subtle, you could almost miss it.
Yes.
Mm.
Man, you know what, Professor, you gotta dude. You should be a narrator or something, bro. You got a chilly ass voice when you're going like that.
He's a storyteller.
Yeah.
Very good. This is why he's a creative, right? And actually, me and Daniel were talking earlier. We might be doing a collaboration.
We might do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. Like, hey,
If I had time, dude, I would get back with Daniel and do the fucking AVP thing we were talking about after Requiem, because we had a lot of great ideas at the end of that episode.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
No, that's good stuff, man.
Sushi rolls, deep fried Oreos.
I'll stick to me popcorn, Omni.
Okay, okay. So wait, hold on. Deep fried Oreos.
That's a thing in the good old US of A.
Yeah.
I'll fight before I eat those.
Okay. Okay. All right, I can. Okay, deep fried Oreos, I understand, but why throw sushi into the mix? What?
That's probably why she didn't feel well.
Here's my thing. Like, I'm no health food freak by any stretch, but deep fried Oreos is just a bridge too far for me with unhealthy.
Yeah, I'll just stick to the regular Oreo.
Yeah, Oreos and milk.
I just can't imagine that.
No.
I couldn't imagine that. Like, I'll stick with me cup of Yorkshire tea and a fucking crumpet with butter on.
Yeah, but I used to be a Japanese place by my house. You can get tempura fried ice cream.
Yeah, I like white powder donuts. I'll buy myself a box of white powder donuts, dude, and I'll go on a sugar high and then I'll pass out.
Yep, you deserve a treat. You've worked so hard on yourself and you look amazing, Omni. Amazing. Keep it up.
Yep,
Now,
do it.
I'll stick to me fucking popcorn and me gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic. No, I mean I'm not much for that. There was a bunch of that stuff over there when I was in Japan, dude, and I was like, no, spank you.
So
as much as I love Japan.
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Is anyone else got any memorable moments or disturbing?
Daniel had one more.
No, that's the last of mine. I have no more. I'm spent.
What about Anubis, man? I mean, he's a horror buff. I thought he would have like 1,000.
I did have a few already before you got on.
I got the ending of The Birds.
Oh,
where they just walk out and the birds have completely taken over. They're not even violent towards the human. It's just they own everything, and the humans know they know everything. That again, it's just a very disturbing.
Yeah, I don't know if that creeps me out as much as say like the end of Kingdom of the Spiders being.
I was that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Oh, Kingdom of the Spiders, that was good too.
William Shatner, he looks out the window and it's just a sea of cobwebs and web. It's just the world's.
Oh, the Kingdom of the Spiders. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh man, I saw that when I was younger. It's like, ooh, my mom loved those movies back in the day. She's like, oh my god, and I'm like, oh shit.
Okay, if that ever happens to the world, there's only one thing you can do: just let all the nukes go.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have one more. Okay. It's from the Mist with Thomas Jane.
Oh yeah.
And it's the part where he actually kills everyone, and he's about to kill himself.
Yeah.
And then like we're all thinking, you know, they're gonna die, right? You know, whatever. And I don't know. I don't remember if they ran out of bullets or if he was gonna try to shoot him.
Car than he had bullets in the gun.
Yeah, and then and then the military shows up. He shows up and he's like looking at him. So what? He's like, that was like, oh my god, dude. I was like, I felt so bad for him. I was
Like
like,
they could have
oh,
drove like another 5 minutes and they would have been good.
What makes that scene even more brutal is if you listen carefully before he shoots them, you can hear the military in the distance.
Yeah.
Mm,
And Thomas Jane did an amazing job in that movie.
yeah.
But then he's kind of fallen from grace because I watched a movie after that that was free on Amazon Prime. I thought, oh, I was in the mood for a werewolf movie, so I watched Hunter's Moon, and he's absolutely terrible in that. The acting in it is fucking garbage. The movie is fucking garbage. I could never watch that again. It was absolutely horrendous. So it's amazing.
he's old.
But
Sorry.
it's amazing how he was in such an amazing movie that's got such a cult following and it's such a damn good movie to that piece of shit.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he
Concept
doesn't.
was cool.
I mean, like it happens to a lot of actors, man. They don't find work, and a lot of the movies that they supposedly are in, they bomb or whatever, and he doesn't find work, and then he did that whole thing about he did that HBO series about being a so-called Casanova or being a whatever, and I didn't see him, and then dudes, and then seeing him in The Predator, oh my god, bro, fuck your pussy. Gotta be kidding me, dude. Like, you gotta be kidding me, man. When I was like, they like it's like Kevin said, they brought him. He went from being a really decent leading man to like what to that. I'm like, oh man, poor guy.
he was in the Punisher, wasn't he?
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
and that's a great movie, especially the uncut one.
See, I don't
uncut.
even like that one. Everyone likes that one. I hate that one.
I
so
like
much.
the other one with him who passed away. He was in Star Wars. What's his name?
Windstone. I like Warzone.
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson.
I like that Punisher movie.
Yeah.
See, you know what? You guys gotta watch. If you guys gotta watch the Punisher with John Travolta, you guys gotta watch the uncut version. You gotta watch the uncut version because they add the uncut version is the one where they add stuff that they cut out from the theatrical release, man, and that one's way better, dude. Like, that one is way better. They even have an opening scene where it's comic oriented, and like they show a little bit of when he was in, I guess it was the Desert Storm or something, and yeah, dude, if you really want to try it again, you gotta watch the uncut edition of the Punisher, man.
There's more of a subplot where he finds out it was his friend that ratted him out to the Saints over gambling debt, and Frank, he tosses him a gun and makes him take care of himself, and it's a very dramatic and dark and well acted scene. He's like, let's say goodbye like friends, Jimmy, the friends we were, Jimmy, and not animals.
I tell you what, the first is it the Omen movie with the nun when she's standing on the top and she jumps and hangs herself.
Yeah,
that freaked me. And right at the end, when the top of the church comes flying down and spears into the priest, that fucking freaked me out. And you know what scares me more? The soundtrack, the music.
Jerry Goldsmith.
The music really haunts you in that film. And you know what? I'm in the middle of trying to figure out what I want to be in my top 10 movies of the year. My list keeps getting changed backward and forward. But, there's a lot of movies out there. Like, you see these big budget horror movies like from Blumhouse that get freaking thrown in your face with all the promotion, and it's all a CGI fest. And then you get lower budget movies that are continuations or not continuation, that don't get enough promotion or are given the respect that
well, right now I've only got like a solid 5. I have 3 that are kind of sitting on the outside of the top 10, but only 5 definites right now. We're like almost towards the end of the year already.
But one of the movies, and I think a lot of people slept on it because I felt like the studio didn't have faith in it to be successful, so they didn't really promote it enough, and that's The First Omen. Now, I
The
really
one with
like
Sam Neill? The one with Sam Neill, the one in the 80s?
no,
They
this
put another
one
one out this year.
called
Oh.
The First Omen, and it is a prequel to the very first movie, and the ending of that movie slides perfectly in to the original Omen way back when. But the great thing is apart from it being connecting to the Omen, the first film way back when, it also doesn't count on it as much. It tries to be its own identity, and it tries to be its own thing as well as connect to the original old movie. And for me, the great thing is it's not really terrifying in terms of like horror, but it's more, it's the disturbance. You get a lot of feels to it. Like it's the feelings it makes you feel, you know, like feels of uncomfortableness. There's some body horror in it. And that's what I loved about it. How it made you feel uncomfortable watching the screen. And for me, that's what's missing in Hollywood and in horror these days, is that you get a lot of these movies that are fast cash grabs that are there just to capture the, you know, the jump scares. But the thing is, when films are gone and done and gone, and you've left that theater, you won't remember the film in a positive way for it being purely terrifying. You'll just remember the jump scares, and then you'll forget about it. But if a film can make you physically feel disturbed, or you know, bring out a certain feeling or an emotional response out here because of this, what's happening on screen, that's what'll stick with you.
Yeah, it's all jump scares, gore, and member berries, and
but
little
it's
plot.
and it's all CGI gore. Like if someone gets
Yeah.
a throat slashed and the blood spat, it'll be like a spit of CGI. At least with like say the Terrifier, I know that the low budget movies, and a lot of people look at them as like gore fest, not really strong plots, but you know, the full of practical effects when it comes to the gore element. And for me, it's more realistic having more practical gore elements than CGI blood everywhere.
Do you realize I've not seen one Terrifying movie yet?
I just
What?
can't
Yep, I've not
I
seen
just
one yet.
can't get past the meth head clown to want to give the movie a shot. It just the look of the character doesn't
Art?
interest me.
You don't like art?
He looks like a meth head.
He probably
Don't
is.
let Omni hear you say that, Anthony.
Yeah, she loves Terrifier
He's
boy.
like
She has
definitely-
shirts and all
I'll say
sorts
it
of shit.
again. I'm not interested because I don't care for Methy the clown.
Well, but, you know, eventually it's going to come to the point that Kevin's going to do a franchise of Terrifying. We're going to be forced to watch him anyway.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Who knows? That'll definitely be on the cards at some point. But
Anthony will be like, I'll sit this one out. Anthony will be like, I'll sit this one out.
well, it'll be me, Anubis.
I'm going to try
Metal
joining that
Moon.
one.
Oh, definitely. Omni's more than welcome to jump on that one. But what I noticed when I did my trailer reaction for the third one, the first two are very low budget. They're very like slapstick when it comes to horror and the acting. But when I watched the trailer for the third one, you can tell they've put a lot of effort in, and they're definitely trying to make Art the Clown, if he's not already, a horror icon. And they definitely have made the third one look a lot more darker, a lot more serious. And they've also, the way it looks, the cinematography is a lot more mainstream. It's looking like they're really pushing to make this into a more mainstream franchise than just a medium budget, you know, I guess cult franchise, something similar to like, you know, Blood and Honey. You know, we know what you're getting with those movies. You know, they're not really taken too serious. Where this one, Terrifier 3, looks like they're really pushing to make it more serious. In the concept,
I'm sorry, Kevin. My bad.
no, just the concept of it as well is interesting. Like Art the Clown, his backstory in the first one, I didn't really understand. Just thought it was like a madman that had escaped, who in a clown costume, but they do bring an interesting backstory even by the film's end, and it's all connected to like demons and stuff like that. And there's like this like a lore of an angel from heaven that's there to stop him at some point, which they haven't introduced yet. But I think it's, you know, the more they're building on the story and the backstory, the more they'll probably have to add these elements in.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, well, he became an icon in such a rapid pace by those movies, and they're not even that old. You know, they're like what 2000s or early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, I do know before the Terrifier movies, there was the director Damien Leon, I think he's called. He created a short story, like a horror short, and then he made,
Hallow's Eve or something.
Yeah, and Art the Clown was in them, and he was in each of the short stories throughout the anthology, but he was just a background character. And it was basically, he tested with the audience and he became the most popular character, even though he didn't really do anything in the short stories. And then he created his own short story around him called Terrifier. And then after the popularity of Terrifier, the short, he then made the full-length film. And I think you can buy the original short, whatever it was, and the Terrifier all in one box set is like a complete work.
Oh, wow.
And then obviously you can then get the two Terrifier films. And I know in the original short, the actor that played Art the Clown retired from acting, and that's why you've got the new actor who's like took over as the new face of the character. But luckily, when he took over the role, he took over when they started doing the feature films, because I don't know if many people know that Art the Clown was in a short prior. So
I mean, well, you can't. Well, not only that, like I always have to bring it up when it comes to a horror thing too, and that's one thing that we're gonna do down the line. I wish I can do it. I wish I could try to do it this Halloween, but I was still thinking about it. But I know I bring it up a lot, man. But the Exorcism of Emily Rose is probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I
think when me and Daniel did our Deliverance review, which is up on the channel now, which we did prior to doing this live, I think I brought up Emily Rose a couple of times during the conversation.
You did.
But I think, we've done this for 2 hours. I think we'll have to wrap this up now.
Yeah.
Because, we could be out all night talking about movies, but I just thought I'd do another live, see what it was about, and I might keep doing these in the future, and make because I enjoy talking to my friends, I enjoy talking to my fellow content creators. But before we go, I'll do a round. We'll start off from the bottom to the top. So Daniel Miller, what you got coming to Dan Filming?
What we have coming to Dan Filming is the Horror Stories, which is an anthology. I'm planning it as an anthology. Then I'm going to see if it works. If it works as an anthology or if it works as a feature or an episodic thing. But it's a series of short stories told in a Edgar Allan Poe-esque style, featuring the classic icons of horror like the werewolf, the mummy, the vampire, and then it will just be a bit more. It's more on the narrative side, but there will be some green screen effects thrown in.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Nice.
Mr. Sci-Fi Century, what is coming to the Sci-Fi Society?
Just let me know if this is done.
I swear to God, Alexa, I'm done. Fuck, sorry.
Alexa, you're a bitch. Fuck off. And stop interrupting me live stream, for fuck's sake.
Dude. I swear to God, I gotta turn that freaking reminder off. Everybody knows that I got the Sci-Fi Society Pitch Black podcast coming on the 27th, and Nubis is on, Kevin is on. D-Film Fanatic said he might not be able to jump on, but I don't know if Daniel Miller has seen that. I don't know if you've seen that, Professor. You've seen that movie?
Which movie again?
Pitch Black with Vin Diesel?
Not in full, no.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. So, well, I'll see. I still have maybe probably 2 more openings, but I'll keep everybody updated. But yeah, I got that coming on the 27th. They're probably gonna do. Kevin's probably gonna do a double take on that, and so is Anubis. So, yeah, that's the only thing I got coming. And after that, I'll keep everybody updated.
Yes. Oh, he has another one that likes Pitch Black. If you want to join with, if you're free, Omni. Miss Omni likes Pitch Black.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, Anthony Jordan, what's coming up on your channel?
It's still gearing up for Montober. I got most of my content pre-uploaded. I might do one more movie, and I also have to record my Halloween H2O review because every year I record it with a Halloween movie review, and as part of a joke, I do it in a Jason costume. So Jason and Michael Myers.
Yes. DJ Anubis.
Next week, on Wednesday, Mr. Tony the Dead and I are continuing our weekly segment of the Ghouls of Midnight, and he will be seeing 1974's Black Christmas for the first time, so we'll be sitting there reviewing that. Next week.
You mentioned you haven't watched them.
Then next month for Cinematic Synergy, Mr. Kevin Lambert and I are going to revisit The Sadness, which is an incredibly good movie. Love that one a lot. And so we'll be revisiting that and talking about that. And then maybe if I have some extra time next week, I think I've been wanting to do this for a little while, and I'm going to try to do my top 10 Western films. So I'll probably break that down and give that to everybody.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
Nice. Unforgiven. Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
I can tell you right now, it's not in my top 10.
Yes.
Oh, okay, man. Oh.
Well, as for me and the entertainment headquarters, of course, next week we have 2 bits of, horror content coming for you. We have the next Into the Darkness franchise discussion, which is Warlock. And then we have the Retro Classic Movie Show, which will be Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. And then after that, I will be on the Sci-Fi Society, like he said, Mr. Sci-Fi Century. We were doing Pitch Black on his channel. Yep. And the following week, or the following month by this point, I won't be in the country because I will be heading off to Romania to do my little adventure to Bran Castle and to take in the sights, to take in the culture, to take in the law. And I will be bringing you a very special blog at some point when I return. And once I have returned, that is the beginning of a full month of horror and vampire content as I bring you Taste the Blood, which
I'm not jealous
Taste
one
the
bit.
Blood is going to be all about yeah, but Taste the Blood, as you can see, is going to be nothing but horror content for the full month of October, aimed at vampires. And a part of that is I do have 2, I have like 3 vampire content coming to it. The first one is going to be the Subspecies franchise discussion. Obviously, I can't wait to go to Romania because I'm going to have a look around and see if there's anything connecting to the franchise when I'm there, which there probably will be some things hovering about. Then we'll have Taste the Blood, Part 1, which is Nosferatu, Salem's Lot, and Shadow of the Vampire. And obviously, we're getting the confirmations of the guests for that one soon. And then we'll have Taste the Blood, Vampire Special 2, with John Carpenter's Vampires, Dusk Till Dawn, Queen of the Damned, and 30 Days of Night. And, of course, I will probably bring you a Salem's Lot remake review as well when I finally get a chance to watch it. But as always, this has been a blast, gentlemen. Everybody who's watched, thank you for watching and taking part. I've had a fantastic time. I look forward to doing a Let's Talk Live again soon. But until then, like I always say, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and we'll catch us all at the next one. Peace.